All right, family, episode number 91, Jesus is the best thing. Most Christians have been taught a doctrine of works, meaning that your relationship with God is based on what you do and what you cannot do. And this kind of doctrine produces this belief that if you do good, if you behave good, that God will change your life or you will see the favor of God in your life. So if you have this type of believing built into your conscience and you really think like that, like most Christians have that built inside of them to where they don't question it or challenge it, they hear anything to the contrary, it confuses them or in some cases offends them. So this, what I'm talking about today could probably be a little hard for some to grasp, but I just pray that this teaching gives you understanding and breaks down and tears down these walls of erroneous religious beliefs and this wrong belief system that this false doctrines and these false teachings have taught us. So Hebrews 10:1, anytime I start expounding out of the Old Covenant, out of the Old Testament, I think we always need to start with Hebrews chapter 10, verse 1. And Hebrews 10, verse 1 makes very clear that the law is a shadow of things to come. The Old Testament is like a picture book. It's hidden pictures of the beauty and the perfections of Jesus Christ. When we see God-given instructions in the Old Covenant, these are actually pictures and shadows of the New Covenant. If you do not understand this, you will end up using the instructions and the requirements of the Old Covenant and then taking these instructions and requirements and applying them to believers in the New Testament, in the New Covenant, and this is wrong. Tithing is a perfect example of this. We saw a big fight about this and a lot of confusion about this a couple of weeks ago. Very recent in the body of Christ. And I'm not going to get too heavy into that, but tithing is not something that you do in order to receive from God. Tithing is something that you do in response to God's favor on your life. I'm just going to leave it as simple as that. I'm not going to get into that. And I'm not going to jump into that fight. So before I jump into what I'm about to show you in this Old Covenant, the beauty and the perfections of Jesus Christ, I always like to read these two New Covenant verses that you have to have down before you start digging into the Old Testament. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 18. And we all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. We do not see the power of God in our lives by trying or striving harder in our own strength. Change in our lives and the power of God flowing into our lives, this comes by beholding Jesus Christ. Preaching and teaching that good behavior will provoke God to bless you, or good behavior is how you get into heaven, this is false doctrine. What I'm showing you today is how we behold Jesus in the scriptures. What I'm showing you today is how you transform and renew your mind. What I'm showing you today is how you provoke the power of God and the blessing of God and the favor of God in your life. Second verse that I got to show you before we get into the Old Testament is Hebrews chapter 10, verses 8 through 10. Anybody that does any kind of teaching out of the Old Covenant, when we start talking about the unveiling of Jesus Christ, these three verses just amplify what I'm talking about. Hebrews chapter 10, verses 8 through 10. First, Christ said, "You did not want animal sacrifices or sin offerings or burnt offerings or other offerings for sin, nor were you pleased with them, though they are required by the law of Moses." Then he said, "Look, I have come to do your will." He cancels the first covenant in order to put the second into effect. For God's will was for us to be made holy by the sacrifice of the body of Jesus Christ once for all time. The thing that gives God pleasure and satisfaction is the perfections, the beauty, and the obedience of Jesus Christ. All the good things you do will not release God's favor and power. Isaiah 64 verse 6 says, all your righteousnesses are like filthy rags. Sacrifices and offerings were never meant to please or satisfy God. So the question is, why does God require these rituals if they never please him? The offerings and the sacrifices are pictures and symbols of the beauty of Jesus Christ and the new covenant. This gave God a gateway to unleash his provision, protection, and his grace. After reading those 3 verses, we now ready to unveil and unpack and feed on the beauty and the perfections of Jesus Christ. Numbers 18, verse 29 says, you must present as the Lord's portion the best and holiest part of everything given to you. Best is the Hebrew word haled. Haled can be defined as the best, fat or fatness, fine or finest, riches. This same word haled is used sometimes to describe how the best of our tithe will be given to the Lord. When Jesus died on the cross for us, God's best died on the cross for us. Now, in the old covenant, under the old covenant, God gave 2 different ways that you were allowed to make offerings to him. There were 2 different ways. You had the wave offering and the heave offering. And this is what we're going to walk through now. And the key to this is when you look at these 2, look at the details and the unveiling of these offerings, they're pointing to Jesus Christ. Exodus chapter 29, verses 22 to 27. Verse 22. Also, you shall take the fat of the ram, the fat tail, the fat that covers the entrails, the fatty lobe attached to the liver, the 2 kidneys, and the fat on them, the right thigh, for it is a ram of consecration, 1 loaf of bread, 1 cake made with oil, and 1 wafer from the basket of the unleavened bread that is before the Lord. And you shall put all these in the hands of Aaron and in the hands of his sons, and you shall wave them as a wave offering before the Lord. You shall receive them back from their hands and burn them on the altar as a burnt offering, as a sweet aroma before the Lord. It is an offering made by fire to the Lord. Then you shall take the breast of the ram of Aaron's consecration and wave it as a wave offering before the Lord, and it shall be your portion. Exodus 29, verses 27 and 28. And from the ram of the consecration you shall consecrate the breast of the wave offering which is waved, and the thigh of the heave offering which is raised, of that which is for Aaron, and of that which is for his sons. Verse 28. It shall be from the children of Israel for Aaron and his sons by a statute forever. For it is a heave offering. It shall be a heave offering from the children of Israel, from the sacrifices of their peace offerings, that is, their heave offering to the Lord. In the heave offering, the sacrifice is lifted up and down. The tithe is a heave offering. Another type of heave offering is the peace offering, where the right thigh of the lamb, the strongest part of the lamb, which symbolizes strength, is waved. Watch this. You ready for this? Exodus 29. The wave offering and the heave offering. The wave offering is demonstrated like this. They would take the breast of the lamb and they will wave it before the Lord side to side. Side to side. The breast of the lamb. The breast of the lamb symbolizes the love of God. The heave offering. They would take the thigh of the lamb and they would raise it. They would heave it up and down. They would heave it before the Lord. Throw it up before the Lord. Heave it up before the Lord. So when you put these 2 offerings together from side to side, up and down, it's a picture of the cross. It symbolizes and creates the image of the cross. So when they were demonstrating this wave offering and this heave offering, they were demonstrating the love of God and the power of God that is unleashed through the cross. Here goes another one. Exodus 30, 34 to 38. We're talking about the beauty of the cross. Then the Lord said to Moses, take fragrant spices, gum resin, onycha, galbanum, and pure frankincense, all in equal amounts, and make a fragrant blend of incense, the work of a perfumer. It is to be salted and pure and sacred. Grind some of it to powder and place it in the front of the ark of the covenant law in the tent of meeting, where I will meet with you. It shall be most holy to you. Do not make any incense with this formula for yourselves. Consider it to be holy to the Lord. Whoever makes incense like it to enjoy its fragrance must be cut off from their people. Galbanum is the Hebrew word hebenol. The root word is heled, which means the best, the richest, or the finest. This is the only reference of this word in the Bible. God declares this offering is special and can only be used as an offering to him. This is a symbol to God that he will offer his best as ransom for us, his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ. Sweet-smelling aromas and fragrances represent the fragrance of the cross, represents the fragrance of the forgiveness of sins, represents the fragrance of the finished works of Jesus Christ. So when we see this description that this aroma is special and pleasing to the Lord, this is a picture of the new covenant believer. This is something that is pointing directly to 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 15. Our lives are a Christ-like fragrance rising up to God. But this fragrance is perceived differently by those who are being saved and by those who are perishing. Believers are a sweet-smelling aroma to God because of our belief in the finished works of Jesus Christ, not because of what we do good. When you go before God in prayer, don't be conscious of your sins. Instead, be conscious of the fact that God smells the sweet aroma of his Son on you, which brings him great delight and pleasure. Knowing this truth will change your life. I'm going to close this out with a special nugget. I came across this in my studying time, and I was going to keep it to myself, but I decided I better be nice and just go ahead and share it. So when you do a New Testament search for the word best in our King James Version, it only appears 2 times in the New Testament. Luke chapter 15, verse 22. But the father said to his servants, bring forth the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 31. But covet earnestly the best gifts, and yet I show unto you a more excellent way. Now, when we see robe in the scriptures, this is a symbol or a picture of his righteousness. And when we see the word gifts here in the Greek, it's the Greek word charisma that means grace gifts. So what I'm seeing here is that the best thing that the Lord has given us is his righteousness and his grace. Zechariah 4:7, grace.